Good day, everyone, and good day, Miss Fran. We are the Group 1. For this report, we're going to discuss about the Spanish colonization.
Introduction. In 1521, the Spaniards, led by Ferdinand Magellan, discovered the islands. The Spanish conquistadores established a colonial government in Cebu in 1565. They transferred the seat of government to Manila in 1571 and proceeded to colonize the country. The Filipinos resisted and waged Asia's first nationalist revolution in 1896. On June 12, 1898, Emilio Aguinaldo declared the Philippines independent from Spain and proclaimed himself as president. After ruling for 333 years, the Spaniards finally left in 1898 and were replaced by the Americans who stayed for 48 years. On July 4, 1946, the Americans recognized the Philippine independence. So before we discuss the Spanish colonial period, we will have a quick recap of the pre-colonial period in the Philippines. Pre-colonial Philippine society was organized around autonomous barangays led by datus. The population consisted of nobles, freedmen, and dependents. Agriculture, especially rice farming, was the primary economic activity. Religion involved belief in anitos and practices like burial rituals and purification. The arrival of the Spaniards. The discovery of the Philippines spurred future Spanish expeditions to the islands and ultimately the successful arrival and colonization in 1565 by the Legazpi Urdaneta expedition to the archipelago. Miguel Lopez del Gaspi. He was born on 1510 at Sumaraga, Spain. He died on August 20, 1572 at Manila, Philippines. He was a Spanish explorer who established Spain's dominion over the Philippines that lasted until the Spanish-American War of 1898. Legazpi went to New Spain, Mexico in 1545, serving for a time as a clerk in the local government. Although Ferdinand Magellan had discovered the Philippine archipelago in 1521, no European settlements had been made there. So Luis de Velasco, the Viceroy of New Spain, sent Legazpi to claim it in 1564. Legazpi served as the first governor of the Philippines from 1565 until his death. In 1570, he sent an expedition to the northern island of Luzon, arriving there himself the next year. After deposing a local Muslim ruler in 1571, he established the city of Manila, which became the capital of the new Spanish colony and Spain's major trading port in East Asia. The establishment of the capital. On May 8, 1570, Martin de Goiti and Juan de Salcedo arrived in Manila. Battle between the troops of Sulaiman and the Spaniards erupted. After hearing that the city had been conquered, Legazpi came to join Goiti in Manila. He formed a peace pact with the native councils, Raha Sulaiman and Raha Lacandula. Intramuros. Intramuros, meaning within walls, refers to the fortified city founded at the mouth of Pasig River shortly after 1571 by the Spanish conquistador Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. Intramuros served as the seat of government of the Captaincy General of the Philippines, a component realm of Spanish Empire housing the colony's governor general from its founding in 1571 until 1865, and the real Audiencia of Manila until the end of Spanish rule during Philippine Revolution of 1898. Fort Santiago was built in 1590 of Governor Gomez Perez Dasmariñas. It's also seen as the central defense fort in Manila as it was mainly built to create a protective layer for the city against other military groups from other countries.
So we are going to move on to our system of government in the Philippines, which has King of Spain. Next is the Council of the Indies. Third is the Governor General. Fourth is the Encomendero. Fifth is the Gobernadorcillo. And sixth is the Cabeza de Barangay. First is the King of Spain. The Constitution states that the king is the symbol of the unity and permanence of the state. He arbitrates and moderates the functioning of the institutions and assumes the highest representation of the Spanish state in international relations, especially with the nations of its historic community. Next is the Council of the Indies. The Council of the Indies was formally created on August 1, 1524. The king was informed weekly and sometimes daily of decisions reached by the council, which came to exercise supreme authority over the Indies at the local level and over the Casa de Contratación, House of Trade. Founded in 1503 at Seville as a customs storehouse for the Indies. Next, the Governor General. During the Spanish period in the Philippines, the Governor General was appointed by the Spanish king and was responsible for enforcing the laws and regulations of the Spanish government in the Philippines. He had the power to appoint and dismiss officials, including judges, mayors, and other local officials. The Governor General was considered as the representative of Spain and the king himself. He also supervised all government offices and the collection of the taxes. Next is Encomendero. The Encomendero played a significant role in the encomienda system, serving as the grant recipient responsible for overseeing indigenous communities. Let's explore the various roles and responsibilities associated with being an encomendero. Next is the Gobernadorcillo. The Gobernadorcillo, or the Little Governor, was a municipal judge or governor in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period, who carried out in a town the combined charges or responsibilities of leadership, economic, and judicial administration. The Gobernadorcillo was the leader of a town or pueblo, or like people or population. In a coastal town, the Gobernadorcillo functioned as a port captain. They were appointed through an exclusive nominations provided by the Spanish law. Their term of office lasted for 2 years. Next is the Cabeza de Barangay. A cabeza de barangay or barangay head, also known as Teniente del Barrio, holder of the barrio, was the head of a barangay or barrio political unit in the Philippines during Spanish rule. The office was inherited from the Malayan aristocratic rank of Datu after barangays had become tributaries of the Kingdom of the Spains and the Indies. Philip II of Spain decreed that the nobility in the Philippine Islands should retain the honors and privileges they had before their conversions to Christianity and subjugation to Spanish rule. Next is the church in governance. The church played a crucial role in the Philippines history, from spreading the faith to building infrastructure and even leading rebellions against foreign rule. During the Spanish colonial period, the Catholic Church amassed enormous wealth and wielded significant political and social power.
These are the social in the Spanish colonial Peninsulares. There are the full-blooded Spanish living in the Philippines and born in Spain. while the Insulares are the full-blooded Spanish living in the Philippines and born in the Philippines. Ilustrados, the enlightened ones, 20 group of individuals born in the Philippines and were able to study abroad. Chinese and Spanish mestizos, people with mixed racial origins and economically sufficient. Indio or native full-blooded Filipino, while the Sangley are the full-blooded Chinese living in the next slide. The Manila Acapulco Galleon Trade. Next slide. So the Manila Galleon, the name of the galleon changed to reflect the city that the ship sailed from, and the name of the trade also refers to the trade route itself. The Manila galleons were Spanish trading ships which transported goods like silk, spices, and porcelain from Manila, Philippines to Acapulco. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. Come on. Next slide. The galleon, a major source of revenue for the Spanish Empire, is the trade with China via Manila and the fundamental source of income for Spanish colonies in the Philippines. The galleons used to trade were crafted by Filipino artisans. The Manila trade became so successful that merchants from Spain asked the ruler of Spain to protect the monopoly of the Casa de Contratación in Seville, Spain. Trade of goods and exchanges of people were not limited between Mexico and Philippines. Countries like Guatemala, Panama, Ecuador, and Peru also serve as supplementary streams. Cargo. 80% of the goods shipped back from Acapulco to Manila were from the Americans, namely silver, seeds, sweet potato, tobacco, chocolate, coffee, pine, and fig trees, while the remaining 20% goods were from Europe and North Africa, such as olive oil and metal goods. The cargo was stored below decks in galleons that could weigh up to 1,000 tons, then unloaded into the Acapulco storehouses. The goods were only to be sold in Mexico, but the traders that export what they could do. Merchants were gaining huge profits of 200% on their investment. Goods that are not sold at Acapulco trade fairs were transported by land to Veracruz on the Atlantic Coast, which had been by Herman Cortes in 1559. Next slide. The end of the Manila galleons. The Manila galleons were an important business in Spain until around 1700, when the Philippines were finally open to the European traders. The galleons continued to trade with Mexico until the Mexicans started to rebel to gain independence from Spain. The Spanish crown decreed an end to the route in 1813. The Manila-Acapulco trade ended in 1815 with its gas trade with Acapulco. The transport became easier in 19th century upon the invention of steamship for the purpose of trade and the opening of Suez Canal in Egypt, which reduced the trade costs and the travel time from Spain to Philippines. Sino dyan?
Next slide pa ba?
The taxation system. Cedula tax, Polo Isarbico, Andrino system. Next slide. Cedula tax, a form of taxation implemented in 1840. This served as a paper which was used as a colony of Spain and a legitimate member of a pueblo. Polo Isarbico. System of forced labor for 14 years and 60 years of age were obligated to give personal services to community projects. One could be exempted from polo by paying the fala, corruption of the Spanish assets. Padrino system. It is the value system where one gains favor, promotion, or political appointment through family affiliation or friendship.
Now, the religion during Spanish colonization. Catholicism. This group played a significant role in the exploitation of Filipinos. The religious orders such as the Augustinians, Dominicans, and Recollects held extensive land holdings including haciendas and encomiendas, which were granted to them by the Spanish government. During the late Spanish colonial period, the Catholic order and their friars held significant wealth and wielded considerable political influence in Filipino society in the Philippines. In the Philippines, Spanish friar symbolized the dominant influence of the Spanish government and the foreign Catholic Church, while indigenous priests advocated for increased autonomy within Filipino parties. Nationalism and independence. Next slide. Dagong Bursa. Balik mo. Dagong Bursa, Jose Burgos, Mariano Gomez, and Jacinto Zamora were prominent Catholic priests in the nationalist movement. Due to their suspected involvement in the 1872 Cavite Mutiny, the Spanish army murdered these three priests, fueling nationalist sentiment. The Augustinians. From 1565 to 1578, the Augustinians were the sole friars in the country until the arrival of the friars minor in 1578. The period of this period of 30 years marked a significant chapter in the history of the country's religious landscape. They served as chaplains to the Spanish fleet and continued their apostolic work, most especially to the Nuevos Cristianos, meaning the newly baptized. The friars took it upon themselves to construct the very first monastery and church in the Philippines. These structures were crafted using the light materials, reflecting the ingenuity of the time. This church was the home of the Holy Child image, Santo Niño. The arrival of the Augustinians in 1565 signaled the official start of the Christianization of the Philippines. In in the more than 300 years of the Spanish colonial period, the Augustinian friars were able to found, build, and evangelize more than 300 towns and churches in what is now Metro Manila, then province of Tondo, Cebu, Bulacan, Pampanga, Batangas, Panay Island, the two Ilocos province, Tarlac, Nueva Ecija, Abra, La Union, and during the early years also is in Negros, Leyte, Mindoro, and Laguna. The Franciscans. The OFM Franciscans arrived in Manila on July 2, 1578, marking a significant event in the history of the city. Upon, the, upon their arrival, the initial group of 15 friars found temporary accommodation in the Augustinian convent located in Intramuros. In June 24, 1578, the Franciscans, also known as the Order of Friar Minor, became the second group of the friar to make their way to the Philippines. Established their mother church within the walls of Intramuros as a tribute to Nuestra Senora de los Angeles, or the Our Lady of Angels. Today, the Mapua Institute is located on the same ground where the old Franciscan church once stood. Dominicans. In the year 1587, on the eve of the feast of Saint Mary Magdalene, a group of 15 Dominicans arrived in Cavite. This group consisted of 13 priests and 2 lay brothers. Saint Mary Magdalene, known as the Apostola Apostolorum and the patroness of the order, welcomed them on the significant day on July 25. They arrived in Manila by foot, coinciding with the feast of Saint James the Apostle, who is, who, who is revered as the patron saint of Spain. The construction of the wooden church and convent was successfully carried out in a challenging location, characterized by marshy terrain and a high presence of mosquitoes. No? Mosquito. This settlement was apply named Santo Domingo as tribute to the revert of Saint Dominic of Guzman. Jesuits from mission to province. The initial group of Jesuits hailing from the province of Mexico made their way to the Philippines. Father Antonio Cedeño, the superior, led by the mission. He was accompanied by Father Alonso Sanchez and brothers Nicolas Galardo. During the voyage from Acapulco, a fourth member named Scholastic Gaspar Suarez de Toledo unfortunately passed away. This is the timeline. From 1585, mission stations were established in Balayan, Batangas, Taytay, and Antipolo. In 1593, first Jesuit mission stations were established in the Visayas, in Tibuan, Panay, and catechetical school for natives. June of 1595, Father General Claudio Aquaviva made the Philippine mission into a vice province dependent on the province of Mexico. The College of Manila was opened in the Jesuit compound in Intramuros. 1656, the membership of the province had grown to 108 individuals consisting of 74 priests, 11 scholastics, and 23 coadjutor brothers. In 1668, the Philippine province established a mission in the Marianas Island. 1768, the Jesuits were expelled from the Philippines. Next slide.
Health and medicine. Healthcare during the period, the arrival of this the arrival of the Spanish colonizers in the Philippines island proved to be a public health disaster on their part, given their inability to acclimatize the tropical conditions, diseases arising from what these Europeans perceive as oppressive tropical climate and virtually alien ecological landscape plagued the ranks of the Spanish civil and military personnel assigned to the islands. Unfortunately, medical facilities and resources were limited to Manila as medical, surgical, and pharmaceutical needs depended on overseas supply transactions, especially from New Spain. To make matters worse, the local population suffered from different kinds of ailments with which the Spaniards could offer abundant spiritual consolation but only limited physical respite. In this reality, alternative solutions had to be sought out. And in this slide, you can see the establishment of hospitals in the Spanish colonization. These are the list of the hospitals. Hospital Real de Españoles in 1577 and 1898. This is located in Manila. And the second one, the Hospital de los Indios, 1578, 1603, and 1603 until now. And this was located in Manila also. Hospital de la Misericordia, 1570 to 1656 until now, and this also located in Manila. And Hospital de Nuestra Señora de las Aguas Santas de Esmainet, this is located in Laguna. Next slide. Hospital de los Indios Naturales, 1578, 1603 until now, and this was located in Manila. Hospital del Espiritu Santo, 1591 to 1662 in Cavite. Hospital de Santiago, 1611, 1691, 1873 until now. This is in Naga. And Hospital de San Pedro, 1587 to 1599 and 1599 to 1774 in Manila, Binondo. The medical practices, drugs and medicine imported from mainland Asia. One cannot ignore the role of regional trade with China and Southeast Asian neighbors in the import of Chinese remedies and other Asian medicines. From the report of Don Juan Graimon Falcon, he stated that valuable drugs were obtained from the King of Cambodia in 1600s. From this, it's not difficult to surmise the similar transaction involving the importation of drugs and medical supplies with developed neighboring Southeast Asian polities such as Siam and Vietnam transpired at certain times. Second one is the Friar works on local remedies, recognizing the overwhelming reality of the lack of medical and pharmaceutical supplies and professionals. Many religious missionaries that surveyed the countryside, cataloging the botanical landscape with the objective of discovering and using alternative cures. The painful reality of the lack of medical supplies was felt in the rural areas among numerous patients who did not possess the ability to travel to metropolis to seek the aid of Spanish physicians. DCS recourse for the poor patient was to seek traditional therapy provided by the local matanda or mendikilo. From the point of view of the Spaniards, were inaccurate therapies and at times opportunists and scallywags. It is from the same curanderos and with the desire to aid the impoverished sick, with which the friars would develop a state-of-the-art medical and pharmaceutical science unique to the island during the period. Third one's curandero art becomes missionary medicines. Father Pedro Chirino indirectly attested to the wealth of pharmaceutical resources available in the island when he stated that it was the very desire to cure drugs that caused the Spaniards or Castilians to discover and settle the Filipinas. Medical plants were known to be abundant in the Philippines island, but their proper usage was originally a mystery wielded by the local traditional healers. The Spaniards used the umbrella term curandero to refer to the local traditional healers who used herbology, hydrotherapy, massage therapy, and divination as methods to cure ailing patients. Botany and herbal medicine. The most accepted aspect of traditional indigenous healing arts was herbal therapy or ophthalmotherapy. From this, the padres explored the tropical botanical landscape. The first recorded missionary to identify and record the medicinal qualities of plants was Father Blas de la Madre de Dios, who in 1611 recorded them his Flora de Filipinas, and later Tratado de Medicina Domestica or Treatise on Domestic Medicine. Based on his studies and works in Cagayan, given the Franciscans' preponderant affinity towards healthcare, Father de la Madre de Dios pioneering initiative served as guide posts for other religious orders also working to catalog and medicinal properties of various plants and minerals. Western medical pra- Western medical practices. Western medicines refers to traditional healthcare you receive in the United States. It refers to the care you receive at a doctor's office, medical clinic, hospital, or urgent care facilities. This style of medical care employs approaches based on scientific research. Healthcare practitioners use tried and true methods to diagnose and treat problems while also improving your general health. These styles of medical care employs approaches based on scientific research. Healthcare practitioners use tried and true methods to diagnose and treat problems while also improving your general health.
Education and literacy. Schools were under the control of the friars. Religion is the center of the educational system. Before the Spanish arrived, education was informal. Children learned from their parents about skills they needed for daily life. When the Spanish came, education became formal and centered around Christian teachings. Children were taught that they were of inferior intelligence and were suited only for manual work. So the teaching method employed by the friars failed to develop self-confidence in their ability to learn. Next. University of Santo Tomas, only existing higher education institution in the Philippines, founded by the Dominicans in 1611, offered courses include medicine, pharmacy, theology, philosophy, canon, and civil law. Higher education was only for Spaniards and Filipinos. Those, those born in the colony to Spanish parents, colleges and universities did not allow Indians to attend. Next. Several colleges, which later became universities, were founded, such as the University of Santo Tomas, Ateneo de Manila, and San Juan de Letran. Schools and nunneries for women were also introduced. Boys and girls attended separate schools. Courses like law, medicine, and engineering were only for males. Females received special education in colegios, school for girls, and beaterios, combined schools, and nunneries. Secondary school for girls, Santa Isabel, La Concordia, Santa Rosa, and Santa Catalina. And secondary school for boys, Colegio de Santo Tomas, San Juan de Letran, Ateneo Municipal. Next. There was also an educational decree during the Spanish colonial period. This was the Educational Decree of 1863. Establishments of one elementary school for boys and one elementary school for girls in each town in the Philippines. Establishments of teacher training schools for the training teachers. Use of Spanish as medium of instruction in all schools. The Spanish elite used language and education to set themselves apart from the native people. Friars resisted the teaching of Spanish language to the Filipinos. They believed that knowledge of the language would lead to development of political and social awareness among the natives. Nevertheless, Spanish was used as the medium of instruction in Ateneo, Letran, and UST. Next. The effects of educational system during Spanish time. Overemphasis of religion, limited and irrelevant curriculum, obsolete classroom facilities, inadequate instructional materials, absence of academic freedom, and racial prejudice against the Filipinos in school. Next. Infrastructure and urban development. 1571, Spaniards successfully occupied Manila. Key establishments, colonial settlements, chapels, and ports. Urban transformation, Spanish colonialism significantly changed the built environment, social and economic conditions in the Philippines. Main ingredients of urban transformation. Establishments of reduction, forced urbanization and resettlement of indigenous lowland populations into larger urban communities. Urban spaces redesigned to accelerate politico-religious transformation. Small scattered settlements consolidated into compact villages. Some natives resisted and fled to the mountains. Villages were under church control, with clergy overseeing daily life and religious activities. The reduction program forced native people to move into larger towns to help spread Spanish rule and Christianity. Small villages were combined into bigger communities under church control. Some natives resisted this and moved to the mountains to escape. Second, creation of land use patterns through the encomienda system. Introduced the concept of land as private property and capital. The encomienda system introduced the idea of land as private property. This system allowed Spanish colonizers to own and manage land, changing how land was used and creating a new social order based on land ownership. Third, hierarchical settlement system. Pueblos, capitals or towns. Cabecera, core of municipality or poblacion. Barrios, adjacent barangays. Estancias, large ranches or early haciendas. The Spanish set up a system to organize towns into levels. Pueblos were main towns. Cabecera was the central area. Barrios were nearby neighborhoods, and estancias were large farms or estates. This made governing and managing resources easier. Next. Quadriculum model of town planning. Streets and blocks laid out with uniform precision. Central Plaza or Plaza Mayor symbolizing power. Laws of Indies, decreed by King Philip II in 1573. Guidelines for creating and expanding towns. Established the church as the urban landmark and plaza as public space. Inspired by the ideal Greco-Roman city concept. The quadriculum model used as grid pattern for streets and blocks, making towns organized and uniform. Central plazas, called Plaza Mayor, were surrounded by important buildings and symbolized power. The laws of the Indies, created in 1573, provided guidelines for building towns with the church and plaza as the key landmarks. Next po. Fifth is the introduction of building typologies and construction technologies. Use of sturdier and more permanent building materials, distinct from flimsy indigenous architecture. The Spanish introduced new building styles and technologies using stronger materials. They built churches, government buildings, and fortifications that were more durable than traditional Filipino structures, marking a clear difference from earlier architecture. Notable infrastructure. Ferrocarril de Manila, the only railway line in the archipelago constructed mainly with Filipino labor. Puente Colgante, Quezon Bridge, the first suspension bridge in the Far East. Public lighting system. Initially used coconut oil, 1814. By 1893, electricity powered Intramuros and its suburbs.
So next is the cultural transformation. Next. First is language. Spanish became the language of administration, education, and religion. It significantly influenced the Filipino languages, with many Spanish words integrating into Tagalog and other local languages. Today, there are still many Spanish loanwords in Filipino vocabulary. Next. Next is religion. The most enduring legacy of Spanish colonization in the Philippines is the introduction of Roman Catholicism. Spanish missionaries converted the majority of the population to Christianity, establish, establishing churches, schools, and religious orders that have deeply influenced Filipino religious practices and beliefs. Next. Next is government and law. Spanish colonial rule introduced a centralized form of government with a bureau- bureaucratic bureaucratic system modeled after Spain's. This included the encomienda system, which organized labor and tax collection, albeit with significant abuses. Next is architecture. Spanish colonial architecture, characterized by churches, forts like Intramuros in Manila, and government buildings, left as lasting imprints on Filipino towns and cities. Many of these structures are still standing today. Next is cultural practices. Spanish colonialism brought changes to Filipino culture practices, particularly in areas like dress, cuisines, music, and dance. For example, the Filipino barong, traditional Filipino formal wear, has a Spanish influence in its design. Next is social structure. The Spanish colonial period introduced a social hierarchy based on race and economic status, with Spanish colonizers and the elite mestizos class occupied the top positions, followed by the native Indios, and then the lowest rung, the slaves. Next is education. Spanish friars established schools and universities, such as University of Santo Tomas in Manila, to educate the native population. This institution became centers for learning and played a significant role in shaping Filipino intellectual history. Next is literature and art. Spanish influence also extended to a literature and art. Filipino writers began producing works in Spanish, known as Literatura Filipina, and artists adopt Spanish styles and techniques in painting and sculpture.
Spanish fortification of the Philippines. During the early years of Spanish rule in the Philippines, the Spanish settlers founded more than 200 cities with a traditional grid typology, along with extensive defensive structures and also religious complexes, convents, and churches, as part of colonization of the territory. These structures are what they call Fuerza and Presidio. Next slide po. The Fuerza, or Spanish fortification in the Philippines. Filipinos and Spaniards built them to protect against local and foreign enemies during the Spanish colonial period. One of its aims is to defend against the American and Japanese occupation. Presidios, colonial frontier military settlements intended to secure and defend Spain's claim to territories occupied by indigenous populations. Next slide. A good example of the fortification done by the Spaniard is the famous Fuerza de Santiago, or Fort Santiago. Fort, Fort Santiago is one of the oldest fortifications in Manila, built by the Spaniards in 1571. But did you know that Fort Santiago wasn't built by the Spaniard initially? Pajaso Liman, the leader or governor of the native people at that time in Manila, built Fort Santiago using logs and stones to protect themselves from the colonizers. The colonizers then recognized that the tongue of land where the Pasig River flowed into the Manila Bay was a very strategic location. That's why the Spanish navigator and governor Miguel Lopez de Legazpi decided to take over the Manila because of that sole reason. But then the fort was destroyed in 1574 during the Chinese attack led by Limahong. And the stone fort was built between 1589 and 1592, and then was repaired and extended after being damaged by the 1645 earthquake. Spanish, British, American, and Japanese occupation forces used the fort as their headquarters and a prison for men, women, children, and soldiers. After its destruction during the Battle of Manila in 1945, the fort was used by the U.S. Transportation Corps as a depot until it was turned over to the Philippine government in 1946. In 1950, Fort Santiago was declared a shrine of freedom and restoration, began the following year. Today, it stands as a memorial to the victims of World War II and the sacrifices of the Filipino people in pursuit of peace. Initially, Fort Santiago was a citadel, meaning dun nilalagay ang mga prisoners nila after the war. Next slide po.
Next is the Philippine Revolution. First is the economic and social inequality. The Encomienda system and the prior lands concentrated wealth and land in the hands of Spanish colonizer and the church, leading the widespread poverty and discontent among Filipinos. Next is the spread of liberal ideas. Exposure to liberal ideas from Europe and the Americans, brought by the Ilustrados, educated Filipino, fuel, fueled nationalism sentiments, work by Filipino intellectual like Jose Rizal's novel No Limitang Hire and El Filibusterismo, criticizing Spanish abuse and inspired revolutionary fervor. Formation of propaganda movement. The propaganda movement, 1872 to 1892, was a campaign by Filipino in Spain and the Philippines advocating for political reforms and equal rights. While it's so peaceful reforms, it it laid the ideologic, ideological groundwork for revolution. Next is execution of Gomburza. The execution of three Filipino priests, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, or the Gomburza, in 1872 for alleged involvement in the Cavite Mutiny galvanized nationalist sentiment and highlighted the injustice of Spanish rule. Next is Katipunan formation. Andres Bonifacio founded the Katipunan (KKK) in 1892, a secret society dedicated to achieving Philippine independence through armed revolt. The Katipunan rapidly gained membership and support across the archipelago. Next is Cry of Pugadlawin, August 1896. The event marked the start of the revolution. Katipunan members led by Bonifacio tore their cedulas, residence certificates, as a symbol of defiance against Spanish rule, signaling the beginning of open rebellion. Next is the Battle of San Juan del Monte, August 30, 1896, also known as the Battle of Pinaglabanan. This war this was the first major battle of the revolution. Despite being poorly armed, Filipino revolutionary attacked Spanish forces. The battle ended in Spanish victory, but it sparked widespread uprising. Battle of Imus, September 1896. Led by Emilio Aguinaldo, Filipino force won and significant victory against the Spanish in Cavite. This boosted the morale of the revolutionaries and expanded the revolution in the southern Luzon region. Next is the Battle of Binakayan Dalahican, November 1896. Another important victory for Aguinaldo's forces in Cavite. This battle demonstrated the growing strength and organization of the Filipino Revolutionary Army. Next is the Tejeros Convention, March 1897. Internal conflicts within the revolutionary leadership led to the Tijeras Convention, where Emilio Aguinaldo was elected president of a revolutionary government. This created a rift with Bonifacio, with felt marginalized and was later executed under Aguinaldo's order. Battle of Cacarog de Sil, January 1897. A major battle in Bulacan where Filipino forces established a fortified camp. The Spanish forces eventually captured the camp, but it showcased the determination of the revolutionaries. Next is the Battle of Biak na Bato, November 1897. The revolutionary government under Aguinaldo established its headquarters in Biak na Bato. Despite several clashes, the revolutionaries negotiated the Pact of Biak na Bato with the Spanish, resulting in a temporary truce and the exile of the Hong Kong. Aguinaldo to Hong Kong. Pact of Biak na Bato, December 1897. This This agreement between the Spanish colonial government and the revolutionaries called for reforms and monetary com- compensation in exchanging for the cessation of hostilities and the exile of revolutionary leaders. However, the promised reforms were not fully implemented, leading to continued unrest. So, return of Aguinaldo, May 18, 1998. With the outbreak of the Spanish-American War, Aguinaldo returned to the Philippines with American support, revita- revitalizing the revolutionary movement. He declared the Philippine independent on June 12, 1898. Next is the Battle of Manila Bay, May 1, 1898. The U.S. Navy under Commodore George Dewey defeated the Spanish fleet, effectively ending the Spanish naval power in the Philippines and paving the way of American involvement. Next is the surrender of Manila, August 13, 1898. Spanish forces in Manila surrendered to American forces, followed a mock battle, effect, effectively ending Spanish colonial rule. However, this set the stage for the Philippine-American War as the Filipinos saw full independence. Next is the end of Spanish rule. Led by heroes such as Bonifacio, the Philippine Revolution began in 1896 and included the numerous battle against the Spanish forces on multiple fronts by 1898. As Spain was fighting to quell the uprising in the Philippines, in become embroiled in the Spanish-American War. After losing to the United States in several lands and naval battles, Spain released the Philippines and other colonies to the US in exchange for $20 US, $20 million US, as agreed upon the Treaty of Paris of 1898. So that's all for our presentation po.